Committee will come to order. Please call the roll.
Senator Cedillo, Dutton, Oropeza. Here. Oropeza here. Onnested.
Here.
Onnested here. Steinberg.
Here.
Steinberg here.
Senator Cedillo.
Senator Cedillo is here.
Senator Cedillo is here as well. Very good. We have 4 of the 5 members, and we'll await Senator Dutton, and of course leave the roll open for him as we take up various measures. All right, let's begin with file item 1, reference of bills. Any questions or concerns? You're good? All right. And moved by Senator Onnested. Please call the roll.
Senator Cedillo. Cedillo, aye. Dutton. Oropeza. Oropeza, aye. Onnested. Onnested, aye. Steinberg.
Aye.
Steinberg, aye. Leave it
All
open.
right. We'll leave the roll open for Senator Dutton. Thank you. All right. File item 2 are governor's appointees. These are for vote only, as we did hear the following members several weeks ago. Leah A. Cronus as a member of the Board of Parole Hearings. Jack E. Gardner as a member of the Board of Parole Hearings. Hollis H. Gillingham as a member of the Board of Parole Hearings. Anthony P. Kane as a member of the Board of Parole Hearings. And Michael F. Prismich as a member of the Board of Parole Hearings. I'd like to make a brief statement, if I might, about at least my recommendation as the chair of the committee as to where we ought to go on these nominations. Members, we've heard 8 members of the Board of Parole Hearings this year alone. We've spent many hours in these confirmation hearings, and we have reviewed transcripts, and of course the staff has attended numerous so-called lifer hearings. One of the reasons why we provide so much scrutiny is that the Board of Parole does much of its work out of the public view, inside the prisons, outside of the view of the press. We need people who are fair, trustworthy, and well-prepared because we are trusting them with our public safety, and these are very hard jobs. And again, it's our job here. We had this discussion with regard to another nominee. It's not our job to judge the character of people. It is our job, essentially, to conduct a public job interview. And if we decide in our best and fair judgment that somebody should just plain not get the job, they may otherwise be a fine, upstanding human being, that it is our discretion and our duty to make a decision accordingly. We talked about, with regard to all of the members, serious concerns with the full board about how the board is interpreting Title 15 and recent court decisions about what the standard of review ought to be for determining whether a lifer is eligible for parole. We're still discussing the matter with the board and its staff, and we're also bringing other issues to its attention. Meanwhile, we have to decide how to proceed on the 5 members who are before us. And I want to essentially, say that I'm going to recommend that we approve Ms. Cronus, Mr. Garner, Ms. Gillingham, and Mr. Prismich, and that we do not confirm Anthony Kane. And I want to explain why. The Senate confirmed Mr. Kane in July 2007 as an associate superintendent within the Department of Corrections. He was the person in charge of all Level 2 and 3 prisons. Yet he chose to retire just 3 months after confirmation. He told us that he attended a CalPERS workshop on October 10th, where he discovered his best retirement date was October the 18th. It simply doesn't feel right. In 2007, when Mr. Kane was up for confirmation for his previous job, he told the Rules Committee, under Senator Parada's leadership, quote, "Why do I want this job? My answer to the question is that I would like to take part in making positive changes to this department and give back to CDCR what has been afforded to me. I feel I have the energy, passion, and desire to assist in making this change. My desire is to be a change agent and a leader that will assist in steering the department in a positive direction." And yet 3 months later, he chose to retire, which is his right. But 3 months after that confirmation hearing. So here's the question before us. should reward this nominee with a $111,800 a year salary for this job after leaving his previous job in just 15 months with full safety retirement? I think the answer is no. We are sending a message that we expect our highest-ranking appointees to provide leadership and a sense of responsibility for the positions to which they are appointed. And people have complete freedom of choice to do whatever they want with their lives. But then to come back and get a full safety pension and in this position does not feel right. There's two other issues that troubled me as chair of the committee. I asked Mr. Kane a question about one of his cases, and an attorney came to our witness table to discuss it, and he was adamant that the attorney seated next to him referred to the wrong case. He said, and this is a quote, "That wasn't your case. I remember exactly the case that it was." But it was he who had the facts wrong, as it turns out, as we went and researched it. His certainty, despite the fact that he was wrong, again, gives me some serious reservations about how he would handle matters outside of his view. He also, stated that in 2007 that he wanted to be a change agent, and true, that was a different job, but in this job where most, if not all, the other nominees said that as part of their job as arbiter and judge, they also deemed themselves to have a responsibility to be advocates for a better system. Mr. Kane said that he didn't view that as part of his role. With regard to the pension issue again, I just want to say to my colleagues and to the public that I want to announce that I will be seeking a change in the statute so that appointees to state boards and commissions will no longer be able to receive both a full state pension as a retiree and a full salary as a member of a board. I hope the Rules Committee, my colleagues, and my colleagues throughout the legislature will join me in this important effort. I think it's an important signal to the public, and we'll bring that forward forthwith. So again, the recommendation is to, in fact, approve Leah A. Cronus, Jackie Gardner, Hollis H. Gillingham, and Michael Prismich. I'd take a motion to that effect. Moved by Senator Oropesa. Other comments from members of the board? Yes, Senator Oropesa.
Go ahead.
No, please.
Okay.
I would just like to say that I concur with the chair, particularly, I'd like to highlight the last item that you talked about in terms of bringing legislation that will make it impossible to, in essence, double dip in our state system and have a full state pension and then come back for, another job, another bite at the apple. I think that that's been a manipulation of the system and one that is, I don't think shows good faith. So I'm very pleased, Mr. Chair, that you are proposing this action, and we'll be happy to be supportive when it comes forward and do whatever I can to be helpful in making sure that it is adopted. And in terms of these other nominees, the ongoing issues that we had lengthy discussions with these individuals, and I think that they were very enlightening and important to our knowledge curve, or at least my knowledge curve, in terms of understanding how the Department of Corrections works, how parole works, and I think I have come to learn that I feel that there needs to be reform, and I don't hold that as a reason to withhold support for these nominees, for these other four nominees, but do want to point out for the record that I think that there's some real things that were highlighted in those discussions that need to be addressed, either legislatively, administratively, or somehow.
Thank you. Senator Cedillo?
Well, only to restate again our concern, or at least my concern, that we don't have the type of diversity that I believe is
Right.
mandated by the code,
Good point.
and that we should, and that the problem exists that we believe, and I believe, that there are too many people who are eligible and meritorious for parole, and they're not being paroled. And so that's a kind of fundamental failure. The system, I believe, in part, it's tied into the appointees. Part of it's, I don't necessarily think it's the architecture of the parole board. I think it's, in fact, probably the failure of placing the right appointees in those positions as they become available. So I will continue, as I have since prior, not taking a position in support. I think we have to think about the second point when people are in compliance with this. It appears that Mr. Kane is in compliance with the spirit and letter of the law, and I think it's appropriate to reevaluate whether or not that's a circumstance that we want to continue to permit.
Thank you, Senator. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve, again, under your agenda 2A, B, C, and E. Please call the roll.
Senators Cedillo? Dutton?
Aye.
Dutton, aye. Oropesa?
Aye.
Oropesa, aye. Onnested?
Aye.
Onnested, aye. Steinberg?
Aye.
Steinberg, aye.
You're off. Okay, 4-0. Those pass. Now on,
Do you want to lift the call on this?
let's lift the call on file item 1 for Senator Dutton, the reference bills.
Senator Dutton?
Aye.
Senator Dutton, aye.
All right, that's out. 2D, Anthony P. Kane. I'll take a motion. Need a formal motion by Senator Oropesa to, don't I?
No,
I don't?
no.
Okay. I thought to reject the nomination. No?
Just let it sit.
Oh, you just let it sit. Okay.
Last time.
Okay.
What's his date?
What?
28th of July.
28th of July. Okay.
I can not-
Never mind. Let's move on. Thank you. File item 3, Assembly Bill 573 by Assemblymember Portantino. Sir, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg.
I see. Okay.
Before
ahead.
I proceed, I want to compliment you on your suggested legislation to amend the rules. I thought that was a very good
Good. Thank you.
idea.
Co-author. There you go.
I'm happy. Sign me up. Good morning. AB 573 offers a unique opportunity for the California legislature to receive at no cost the expertise of PhD or equivalent scientists and engineers through the California Science and Technology Policy Fellowship, a professional development program. Specifically, the bill will enable the California Council on Science and Technology to place, beginning in December 2009, up to 10 fellows into the state legislative offices in both houses for one-year fellowships. CCST has been empowered to cover the full cost of this policy-making resource because of the nonprofit funding through the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation and other nonprofit partners. CCST worked with staff from both Rules Committees and Ethics Council in both houses to ensure that while these policy fellows are not legislative employees, they will be made subject to the same standards of conduct, economic interest disclosures, and other rules that traditional employees are bound to. These criteria will be contained in an MOU between CCST and the Senate and Assembly Rules Committees or the Joint Committee on Rules. I have with me representatives from CCST who are here to say a brief comment.
Thank you very much. Briefly, if we can.
Thank you. I'm Laura Lee Martin. I'm representing the California Council on Science and Technology, the sponsor of the bill, and I'm directing the launch of this fellowship program. Clearly, with the increasing number of complex scientific issues before the state and increasing workloads here in the legislature, we're focusing to bring fellows to complement the talent that you already have in your offices, to give you an extra set of hands and different perspectives from the scientific and engineering training that they'll bring. We have designees from leadership of both houses and both parties asked to work on the advisory council with us to help shape this program as we move forward, and that we have been working, as you pointed out, with the rules committees, the staff both houses, and with the council, ethics council both houses, to ensure that these fellows really will abide by the types of disclosures and training that need to be here in the Senate and the Assembly. Doug Brown is with me. He's a program advisor. He's worked in the legislature over 20 years, and he's helping also ensure that the Fellows Program really brings value to the legislature. We're here to answer questions.
Thank you very much. You want to both identify yourself for the record in case there's...
I'm Doug Brown, and I'm working as an advisor to CCST.
See you, Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon. Mike Mendez with the University of California, also in strong support.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. I want to ask Mr. Schmidt, give us a little perspective here on this request, whether this is something that is consistent with the practice of the legislature. Sure, nice, it's a gift, really, in an appropriate way to the legislature, in terms of added resources, but I just want to make sure that it is consistent with our tradition and with our rules.
Well, the gist of the bill actually is clarifying that the presence of these folks doesn't constitute a gift, which is what frees them up.
It's not a gift. That's what I meant. Exactly what I meant.
So they can function here in a quasi-employee way. It's pretty much similar to the way the Senate Fellowship Program has been run and will be run here. The only main difference is that the Senate Fellowship Programs run through the university, or Cal State University. So there was never a question of that being a gift or not to public agency. But it's consistent, I think, generally with the kind of folk we've used in fellowship programs in the past. These people would be a little bit more advanced in terms of their degree work. But I don't anticipate it being any different than what we do now.
And no cost to the state,
no,
to the legislature. Okay.
Well, incidental costs of providing a desk and a computer.
Sure. Senator Onstead?
Yeah, two questions. The coordination for the Senate Fellows Program done by the Cal State University is funded for and paid for by the university system. I guess my question is who's going to fund and pay for your coordination of this program? Assuming Mr. Brown is the person. Is that the false assumption?
No. Go ahead. Yeah.
CCST was established by the legislature about 20 years ago by the direction of the legislature, and our board consists of public and private universities, and our core funding comes from that. This program is being funded by Gordon Betty Moore Foundation and several other foundations, and we have in hand commitments in dollars that will fund the first 5 years of the program, and we're continuing to raise money beyond that.
Including the person
Staffing.
who is the program coordinator or director or whatever the term will be.
Right. There's actually one full-time person and two of us working on parts of that, so there's almost 3 full-time people that are being covered by the grant.
Second question, something to have a little concern with. You indicated in your opening statement that this was going to be PhD level. I would suggest that's the wrong way to go. That the kind of expertise that we need, having spent almost 12 years in this building, is not the academic, theoretical type of expertise that you get from a PhD person who has spent most of his time sitting in an ivory tower teaching or writing, but rather the ones who have been out in the real world and have dealt with this. I'm thinking specifically of an engineer. A traffic engineer, a civil engineer. Very few of the people who've been out in the workforce have PhDs. They do in the university setting. But the real practical advice that this Senate would benefit from is not the academic information, but the real practicality of when you write a bill that affects building a highway and bidding out the highway process. There's no PhDs that have been really involved in that process. It's all people who are master's levels or even bachelor's levels. So I see a real negative to the criteria that you're using when you maintain that PhD is the level you want to go for.
We could respond.
Sure. That's clearly been a consideration, and your comments are well taken. At the engineering level, we're looking at masters who have some work experience beyond their master's degrees, who really have that work experience. The PhDs we're looking for will come from a variety of areas, from mid-career, retired, or right out of their PhD program. But we're doing a very strong selection process that will look for the qualities that would work here, and that's why we wanted to have the engagement from the legislature in the process of designing this program. And so that's why we invited both parties, both houses, to try to help us do that. We're looking for that unique person that can think with a scientific training, but really has the flexibility and the practical approach to actually work and think on their feet and do the kind of stuff that you need. This is it is a professional training development program for these folks, so they walk away and have a better idea if they go back into research, how to do research that's valuable to the state, how to give you something that you can use as you're making legislation and policy, and sort of step away from that more theoretical piece of the academic world that we all know about. So we really are working hard to make sure that selection brings you the right kind of people.
And if I could add the number of folks that have already expressed interest, it's a very, very large, deep talent pool that the process of going from 100, which I think there's already 100 folks who have expressed interest, down to a select group of 10 is going to make the ultimate 10 be special people who are going to add a lot to the legislature.
Understood, and yet I think you're set up for failure. The fact of the matter is if I, working on the health committee, wanted to get the advice of a pharmacy bill, I do not want to talk to a recent graduate who has a PhD in pharmacology or chemistry. I want to talk to somebody who might not even have a master's degree but has spent 20 years as a pharmacist and understands the implications of what that bill is going to do when it comes down to the patient care and patient safety. So, you know, I wish you luck. I'll support the effort, but I think you built in some strikes against yourself.
Well, I think you make a good point, but maybe it doesn't have to be either or. I mean, this is a particular gift, not a gift. This is a particular offer that to add some expertise to the legislature. But I think maybe you could think about a second step, which is coupling this opportunity with people who have maybe more practical experience in the field. But, you know, we do have a Senate Office of Research. We do have people who we bring in for more technical expertise on various issues. Senator Rapeza?
Yes, I was wondering if you all have, if you intend to look at the pool of applicants and then decide what specific disciplines you will be looking for in the fellowships, or if sometime between now and when you select those fellows, you will be narrowing down the 10 disciplines.
What we're looking for are very sharp people in scientific and engineering thinking. And we understand that in the committees and in your offices, the issues change all the time. So rather than try to find a chemist to work on a chemist committee or a bill that would have those, finding the smart scientist who can work across fields as they need to work. We have, for instance, in this first applicant, folks have made an interest, 96 folks, and 4 of them are MDs at this point, and 1 veterinarian. We've got a variety of people in a variety of different disciplines, so we're going to look for the smartest thinkers who have the best flexibility and the ability to work in this environment.
Will this be a full-time fellowship?
Yes, it's full-time. It would start with a 3-week training program in November with placement in December and would go in through October of the next year.
And how much will they be paid?
The base stipend is $45,000 a year, with a little bit of flexibility if somebody, 1 or 2 of the fellows needs a little bit more.
That's not very much money at all for the level of education that you're looking for, and you're talking about MDs and others. But you're finding that there is we're in an unemployment time, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Well, I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I think we're also attracting professionals from their fields of discipline who want to get that new perspective and how they can help their government. I think that's
Yeah.
the other part of it.
There's a public service.
There's a public service aspect of
orientation.
people who, it's an exchange of perspective and ideas and expertise.
Well, I think that's great, and I need to express to you all something that I hope that you will keep in mind as you're doing your screening and as you're defining your, the specific placements and all of that. And that is an acknowledgement and an understanding that as a state we are demographically changing, and some of the biggest questions we have are around how changing demographics impact some of these bigger, higher thinking questions that we may be asking the fellows to delve into. And so issues related to diversity in the pool of fellows, I think, is an important factor to consider, and in their fields of study, obviously, as well. But multiculturalism is something that has been understudied to my way of thinking, particularly in the areas of healthcare and education. And so the extent to which that you all might be able to help give us some answers, this fellowship might be able to give us some answers, I think it's a very exciting opportunity.
Senator Dutton?
Yeah, just actually more procedural than anything else, and I think to actually probably get Greg's thoughts on this, and that's, how is any thought about how we would place the fellows in the various, with the various Senate offices and so forth?
They're really good to go to the Rules Committee first.
I understand.
So moved.
I think we do it collectively, dealing with the management of the group, and also with just Rules Committee placement staff and members of the Rules Committee here, their staff.
Okay, is it going to?
We'd want to make sure it's spread out in a fair kind of partisan way, as well as divided between members' offices and committee offices.
Well, and that also kind of leads me into my next question. Unfortunately, sometimes this place can get extremely political. How are we going to protect or make sure that we give them some kind of isolation or some kind of protection so that they don't have to feel the pressure, the political pressure that sometimes comes about in this environment?
What pressure are you talking about?
It's just one of the things I'm concerned about, because sometimes political agendas can override, on both sides of the aisle, can override the science. So I'm just...
Senator, that's part of my job, actually, once they get here. And having 22 years experience in the building, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have a lot of bruises to show for it, too. But we are going to give them an intensive 3-week training when they arrive in November. And we're going to bring over a lot of people from the building, legislative staffers and other folks, even some old retired folks like me, to give them some sage advice on how you do navigate that. And my role in an ongoing manner will be to be their out-of-the-building mentor who, when the issues like this do come up, we can try to find the right people to help resolve the questions. And, I plan to work very closely with Greg and over in the Assembly as well. So it admittedly will be an experiment in our first year to figure out how exactly we do that. But it's high on my agenda, quite frankly.
Well, I'm not one that's ever going to turn away help, especially people who've got expertise. So I'm welcome it.
Let's take a motion on the measure. Moved by... you got a comment. I'm sorry, Senator.
Yes, I don't doubt that given our very successful experience with the Senate fellows, that we have sufficient experience in terms of administering the program. I do raise the concerns a little bit from my colleague that there is a need not just for the discussion of changing demographics, but also that the fellows reflect that. There's sufficient pools of talent in California in every level, I'm happy to say, and it's important that that the fellows reflect that, because they bring a very learned experience when they come, and they come with that background that diversity brings to the state. So I'd like to hear you affirm that.
Just want to let you know the selection committee that we've put together does have that diversity reflected, and our outreach to find the potential candidates has benefited from the input of different offices around the Capitol to help us reach into the diversity, bipartisan outreach, as well as gender and ethnicity. So we're, as we go forward, we'll ask for more help in making good reach into those different pools. But we've done I think our first pool really reflects that we've got a diverse group of people responding with great talent.
Okay. Is there a motion? Moved by Senator Cedillo. Call the roll, please.
Senator Cedillo?
Aye.
Cedillo, aye. Dutton?
Aye.
Dutton, aye. Oropesa? Oropesa, aye. Honested?
Aye.
Honested, aye. Steinberg?
Aye.
Steinberg, aye.
Thank you all very much, and
Thank you.
hope you take everything that the members said into account. We want to be your partners in making this a success. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, without objection, I'm going to ask to move file item 10 to next week because it's a discussion item, and I just would rather put it off till next week. Okay, on the remaining items, I know that there are a few that our Republican colleagues have asked to be separated out. So tell me if I'm right or wrong. File item 13, file item 16.
What did we just?
Nothing. We just pulled 10.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you're going to pull 10, then should we also be pulling 21? Because that's kind of related, isn't it? We understand the funding's going to be private, is what.
Oh, is it intended to be? No, then that's fine. Then we'll put that off till next week.
That was the only reason why.
That's fine. 13, 16, 21, and 23, as I understand it, are the ones you guys would like pulled.
Correct.
Okay, so on the remaining items, which are items 4 through 9, 11, 12, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 22, take a motion from Senator Onnested. Please call the roll.
Senator Cedillo?
Aye.
Cedillo, aye. Dutton?
Aye.
Dutton, aye. Oropesa?
Aye.
Oropesa, aye. Honested?
Aye.
Honested, aye. Steinberg?
Aye.
Steinberg, aye.
On these remaining items, then, 13, 16, and 23, because 10 and 21 are put over till next week. But 13, 16, and 23, moved by Senator Oropesa. Please call the roll.
Senator Cedillo?
Aye.
Cedillo, aye. Dutton?
No.
Dutton, no. Oropesa?
Aye.
Oropesa, aye. Honested?
No.
Honested, no. Steinberg?
Aye.
Steinberg, aye.
Measure passes 3-0. All right, we now move in, 3-2. We now move into executive session.